Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. The time is now 7:30, and I'd like to call to order the September 28th, 2022 meeting of the Downers Grove Public Library Board of Trustees. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We acknowledge that the Downers Grove Public Library sits on the unceded, traditional, and ancestral homelands of Native peoples. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the indigenous peoples who have been caretakers of the land throughout generations, past and present. We invite you to learn more about the genocide and forced displacement by non-Native settlers and the ongoing injustices against Native peoples. For more information on the land acknowledgement, please visit the Downers Grove Public Library website. Caitlin, can you please proceed with roll call?
Trustee Doherty? Here. Trustee Humphreys?
Here.
Trustee Kuntia?
Here.
Trustee Nienberg?
Here.
President Gagani?
Here. Thank you. On behalf of the trustees, I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for your interest in the library. Item number 4 is our approval of the August 24th minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, do we have a second? Is there any trustee comments or questions? All right, we will go ahead and proceed with a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion has been approved. Item number 5 is our financial matters. Item 5A, August 2022 financial report, as well as September 2022 invoices.
Yes. As you can see from your board packet, we are at 66% through the year. There was a major fund balance change between the library fund and the library capital replacement fund. That was the transfer that was approved earlier this summer. That is an annual transfer that is made from the balance of the library fund to our capital replacement fund to fund our ongoing capital replacement projects. Our revenues received are at 63.8% through the year in the library fund, and our expenditures are at 64.3% in the library fund. I do want to note that for the invoices, that there is no invoice for Drag Queen Bingo. The program was canceled, and per the contract, there is no payment. So the rest of the invoices are in your packet, so those are all of them. There are also some invoices for the Library Capital Replacement Fund that include things like the architectural fees and the elevator modernization project that is pending.
Julie, could you tell me a little bit more about the camera installation invoice?
We did add some additional security cameras to our camera system, and so that is the funding, and that is out of the building and equipments line. So Ian, our building operations manager, worked that into his budget to be able to add some cameras. As you know, from some recent incidents, there were some blind spots that we wanted to take care of.
And are those put on the same system then as the
Yes,
existing ones? Oh,
yes,
great.
they are on the same camera system.
Any other comments or questions from trustees?
No.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the financials as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the financials as presented along with a second. Caitlin, can you proceed with roll call?
Trustee Doherty? Yes. Trustee Humphreys?
Yes.
Trustee Kuntia?
Yes.
Trustee Nienberg?
Aye.
President Gagani?
Yes. Thank you. All right, we are on to item number 6, public comment on agenda items. This is the portion of the agenda where we invite the public to speak on items that are on tonight's active agenda. Tonight, those items are minutes from our previous meeting, invoices to be paid for September, extending the maximum time for public comment, and bid awards for the Workroom renovation project. Any comments about drag queen bingo and other programming should be made during the public comment for items not on the agenda. Does anyone have a comment on one of the 4 active agenda items? All right. We are on to item number 7, public comment on other library business. Generally, this portion of the meeting does follow public comment on agenda items. However, given what we believe to be our large number of individuals that do want to comment tonight, we have an action item on the agenda to move this portion to after the director's report. If you have an agenda item or agenda in front of you, that's item number 10. We will also be lengthening the maximum time to 2 hours from the normal 30-minute maximum time. That being said, trustees, do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to move the public comment on non-agenda items to after the director's report, as well as lengthening the time to 2 hours. We can proceed with the voice vote, correct? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And all those abstaining? All right. We are moving on to item number 8, new business. No new business? Okay, perfect. Item number 9, unfinished business, workroom renovation project bid awards.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. We have a motion to approve and award the workroom renovation project. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Do we have trustee comments or questions?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we table this until the next meeting. I know this information was available in mid-September. Just for the public's awareness, this project was originally budgeted at less than $250,000. The revised estimates came in at $660,000. That's a 270% increase. The bids that have come in are $659,000, which I think is interesting to say the least. And I think this level of spending deserves a little more scrutiny than being added to the agenda packet 1 week before the meeting, revised a mere 48 hours before the meeting, and not having had time to thoroughly review it. I would like to, and also because of the length of comments that we expect tonight, I'd like to move that we table this till the next meeting.
Okay, so we have an amended motion on the floor to table this. Do we have a second?
I actually have a question.
Yes.
About the items as presented. I was curious, in all of the, the kind of general or the trades work that's been bid out separately, in all cases except for 2, we accepted, or the lowest bid has been kind of put in the agenda, and I was curious about the 2 that weren't. And I'm just trying to find out which ones. It was the Hartwig. Let's see. It was the mechanicals and...
Yeah, it was HVAC
Oh,
and
hey.
fire protection.
Yeah, so can you tell me more about why
Yeah,
the
so
one...
those two low bids,
Let me just introduce Jason Perkunis is our construction manager from Shales McNutt Construction, and he is the one who did the recommendation to award that is included in the board's packet.
Snuck up on me. Didn't see that.
He was hiding behind the podium.
the 2 bids that were the fire protection and the HVAC, the first low bidder, or both of them forgot to include an allowance and had some other discrepancies, which they voluntarily withdrew their bid because they weren't the lowest qualified bidder. Every other one, we vetted each and every one of the contractors, made sure they included what they needed to include, what the documents call for, et cetera, and so forth, except for those 2. And that's why they did the second.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, you can explain that a little bit more.
And to Mr. Nienberg's questions, when this project was originally included in the 2022 budget, which was done in the summer of 2021, we included a placeholder in the 2022 budget that would allow us to move forward with the architectural design, so coming up with the scope of the project, and with Shales McNutt to work with us on the value engineering and the pre-construction portion of the planning process, with the knowledge that this project was intended to span 2 budget years, 2022 and 2023. Generally, when the library does smaller projects like this, we tend to do it in the winter. Most of the construction companies that work on these smaller projects, this is a good fill-in for them during the holidays and the winter months before, the big school projects generally start in the spring. So we weren't sure what the scope of the project was going to be. We knew the problems, that our children's services workroom had too few workstations, our access services workroom had too many workstations, and our building operations department had no workroom. They had a storage room. So we wanted to be able to move forward with the architect to be able to assess our options on this project and make the project as affordable as possible, but also to meet those priorities of reallocating space for staff in the way that we need for today. So we went through that process in 2022, and the budget of $660,000 spread over 2 years was the final that was approved in the spring. The board did look at that in the spring of this year. We did look at various options as well on how to keep the cost down and to achieve our aims as cost effectively as possible.
Thank you for that.
I would like to make a motion to approve. Can we go ahead and do that again?
So we do have-
Point of order, there's a
we have
motion on
to-
the
we
floor.
have to-
We have to vote on the amended motion,
amended
and then
motion.
we vote on
Right.
your original motion.
So the amended motion needs a second first. Is there a second to Trustee Nienberg's motion? All right, so then we will be reverting back to the original motion, which has been seconded, to approve the workroom and renovation bids.
As presented.
As presented, apologies. Can we proceed with roll call?
Yes. Trustee Doherty?
Yes.
Trustee Humphries?
Yes.
Trustee Kuntia?
Yes.
Trustee Nienberg?
Nay.
President Gagani?
Yes. All right, thank you. That has been passed. We are on to item number 10, Library Director's Report.
All right. As you know, we have received an overwhelming amount of feedback for about the Drag Queen Bingo event, beginning on August 27th. That event was actually posted on the library's events calendar in the very beginning of August. We did not receive any comment until August 27th, and from August 27th through September 12th, when the program was canceled, the feedback we received was 852 individual pieces of feedback, and 51.53% of those were positive, 44.25% were negative, and 4.23% were other, generally some questions. And then after the cancellation of the program at the end of the day on the 12th through September 23rd, which is last Friday, we received an additional 363 pieces of feedback that were 81.82% positive, 14.33% negative, and 3.86% other. I think that's kind of as expected for the after cancellation. And then the only other piece, other than my written report that is in your board packets and available on the library's website, is just a thank you to the Center for Creative Arts Therapy and Azizi Marshall and her company, who are providing some staff wellness events for the library staff. It is much needed, and their thoughtfulness and kindness is very appreciated.
Right. Thank you all for your patience as we got through the business portion of this meeting. So we are on to public comment for items not on the agenda. Before we get started, I want to share some information about how we will proceed with this. We have a full house tonight, which is great. We do want to hear from everyone that wants to speak. I'd like to share a few guidelines that the Village Council also employs. This portion of the agenda is an opportunity for the public to address the Library Board of Trustees. While we try to be accommodating, it is not a question and answer session. There are lots of opportunities to provide feedback to the board via email to libraryboard@dglibrary.org, through the form of our website at dglibrary.org/feedback, and by phone, chat, email to the library, and on paper, how did we do forms available in the library. The public comment agenda item is an intentional part of a structured meeting. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Avoid repeating what others have already said. Keep your comments to one visit to the podium per subject, and please remember it's an opportunity to be heard. It's not a debate or open discussion. In the interest of time, to ensure everyone has a chance to speak, we ask that you do not applaud or boo when you hear something you like or don't like. We'd really like to use this time as efficiently as possible. With that said, we would like to open up the podium for comments, and in order to keep things moving, I would love if we could at least get 3 or 4 people kind of lined up, perhaps off to the side, just so we can just keep things moving along. And as you see people stepping back, I think that's probably a good number of people for now.
Yeah, my is down on the floor.
Is there a way to prioritize speakers who live in the community?
Unfortunately not.
Not legally.
Is it okay if
If
we
that's,
have-
sir, if that's okay, would you mind if he goes first?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. By all means. My name is Ted Waltmeyer. I have worked in libraries for 29 years, my last being at the Downers Grove Public Library from 1995 to 2009, when a stroke changed my employment status and early retirement was the best action. I was supported by the staff and board of the Downers Grove Public Library. Now it's my turn to support them. The focus and mission of a library is to present materials and programs which benefit members of the community. Policies and procedures for this are in place. I worked through my share of controversies at DGPL. The primary issue was unfiltered internet access in the early days of the online world. Now, here is an issue of a library program being threatened by another community group imposing their standards on the library standards and threatening violence if we do not conform to their standards. Now, Downers Grove is a diverse community. I learned that by working at the library and attending the church, Downers Grove First United Methodist Church. There's too much hate and misunderstanding in the world today. Everyone here in this room may not agree with materials and programming at DGPL, but everyone should endorse a safe environment for staff and the public to learn about diversity. I'm going to digress with two quotes. I'm a music theater fan, two songs that speak to me, one carefully taught from South Pacific that says you have to be taught to hate and fear. And the other is from Into the Woods, careful the things you say, children will listen. And I applaud Downers Grove Public Library for being diverse and recognizing that issue, and I fully stand behind the board and staff of the Downers Grove Public Library.
Thank you.
Well said. Hate and violence has no place. Good evening. My name is Noel Manley, and I'm the co-chair of Awake Downers Grove, a peaceful organization dedicated to the education and protection of all children. Now, the United States is a country filled with systemic love, kindness, and fairness. And Downers Grove is a village filled with systemic love, kindness, and fairness. However, what I do not understand is why the Downers Grove Library would want to host an event that promotes a highly sexualized form of adult entertainment for children as young as 12 years old. The sexual exploitation of children, this is the sexual exploitation of children, and it needs to end. So why would a library be motivated to host such an event? Well, I have the answer. This nonsense stems from the implementation of the Downers Grove Library's Discovery Report. If you're not familiar with the report, it's listed on the library's website. It's not that hard to find. It's on the page displaying the extended clenched fist salute. You will note that Downers Grove taxpayers paid an equity consultant, RGW Consulting, $86,834 to date. And what do the people of Downers Grove get for their $86,000? Well, to begin, if you go to page 8 and you look at question 1, you'll find that RGW's previous client is listed where the Downers Grove Library should be. I wonder if they know how to use their word search. I also obtained a copy of the Glen Ellen Discovery Report, also executed by RGW. And there was significant sections where it was almost word for word the same report. And this is boilerplate aside. Now, my experience with Downers Grove is that it's a village of decent, hardworking people who support and sacrifice for their families and participate in their community. However, if I knew nothing about Downers Grove and had only this Discovery Report as my glimpse into this community, one would think Downers Grove is the old Jim Crow South. As you might expect, the $86,000 report paints Downers Grove Library as a racist institution, as well as the Downers Grove community by extension. I don't know about you, but my experience with libraries, as well as where I grew up, the Chicago Public Library, my grammar school, high school, and college libraries, the people working there were all decent, kind people. This includes the Downers Grove Library. Now, the report is only 22 pages, and I encourage everyone to read it. It essentially uses race as a bludgeon to label the Downers Grove Library as systematically racist. Its logic is specious and its findings flawed. In fact, there's absolutely nothing scientific about it. There's a lot to unpack with this report. So here's a glimpse into the report's accusatory nature. In the shared language section, the report asserts that the term taxpayer is coded language that signals power and privilege. And to quote, Likewise, a patron naming that they are from the north side of Downers Grove implies an expected level of privilege and respect that residing on the south side of Downers Grove does not imply. That's not too divisive. In the section called
He's got 1 more minute.
Okay. Fine. In the section called whiteness, the report asserts that whiteness is an actual thing and ascribes specific attributes of whiteness, including punctuality and behavioral expectations. To be clear, let me quote the following. Designed and informed most specifically by white males, whiteness is also patriarchal. Whiteness informs how we manage time, hold space, distribute resources, and share power. I wonder how many hardworking African American, Hispanic American, and Asian American know that their cultural work ethic is in fact a surreptitious form of whiteness. What an insult. And again, the Downers Grove taxpayer paid $86,000 for this divisive nonsense. What this report and its implementation attempts to do under the guise of diversity and inclusion is in fact the opposite. Instead, it promotes divisiveness and exclusion. And those responsible for wasting taxpayer dollars should be held accountable for this politically incendiary report. This needs to end, and it needs to end now. Thank you.
Hello? Is that better? Can you hear? Okay. Hello, my name is Shannon Adcock, founder and president of Awake Illinois, a nonprofit social welfare advocacy organization that operates statewide. I would like to say I really enjoyed speaking with you, sir. As a fellow thespian, I was saying to you that the theater is inclusive.
It certainly is.
Amen to that. And I will say it was an interesting welcome I received. I come in smiling. I'm eager to talk to people and have conversations. And one of the people here said, "What are you doing here from Naperville? Get a life." The heart on the shirts, the peace signs, the love. So much for tolerance and inclusion. When we were first informed of the drag queen, no clapping,
We're going to pass
no
on the
clapping.
clapping and jeering. Thank you.
But thank you. When we were first informed of the drag queen bingo event scheduled for October 10th at the Downers Grove Library, we did due diligence. We investigated the community concerns and answered the appeal to advocate against the cross-dressing performance for minors aged 14 to 18. The following details were confirmed via discovery. 1, the registration form did not require a library card, nor parental permission or adult supervision. It did require the minor's first name, last name, email, phone, and required they choose their grade, 7th through 12th. It is unknown who had access to this registration information, nor how it may have been shared. 2, internet searches of the scheduled performer resulted in graphic and mature content being displayed. 3, we received numerous appeals from the Downers Grove community, and the blog post from Awake Downers Grove chapter was viewed over 2,000 times, which outlined the public service announcement and listed concerns relayed by the community. 4, FOIA requests show that the library director, Julie, is also the FOIA officer. A public employee overseeing legally mandated disclosures of their own activities presents a clear conflict of interest. For the record, Awake Illinois never suggested, posted, nor engaged in any threats. Any reports of this are false. We advocate for the law, not against it, and as such, we have grown to over 30 statewide chapters as a result. Awake Illinois leadership and members represent all walks of life. Every race, creed, sexuality, and various countries of origin. On this issue of the drag queen bingo event for minors, we listened to all of the community, including the gay community. It's important to share some of the voices that have been overshadowed due to the conversation being hijacked. A gay man who married his partner 2 years ago said, "This is not for kids and it brings shame on the gay community." 2 lesbian moms said they found this to be outrageous and this type of programming is inappropriate. A drag queen by the name of Kitty Demure is broadcast as saying, quote, "I have no idea why you would want drag queens to influence your child. Would you want a stripper or a porn star to influence your child? It makes no sense at all. A drag queen performs in a nightclub for adults. There is a lot of filth that goes on." It's extremely irresponsible on your part. I understand you might want to look like you're with it, that you're cool, that you're woke, that you're not a Nazi, not a homophobe, whatever it may be, but you can raise your children to be a regular child without including them in gay sexual things. Those are the words straight from the mouth of a male gay drag queen. One of the more emotional testimonials came from a parent whose child is gay. She said her child is now more insecure with all of the hyperfixation on the community drama over her child's sexuality. Why would a caricature of the gay community be considered a best practice? Leave the kids alone. These voices matter, and we heard you. Awake Illinois implores any public entity or person entrusted with children, please don't weaponize the word inclusivity to push inappropriate programming. We applaud the respectful advocacy of all concerned citizens who spoke of their concerns. While there are a few public employees who hijacked tax-funded resources to promote sexual behaviors to children, there is a vast community of common-sense citizens who stand against the exploitation of children. Awake Illinois is proud to be part of it. Thank you for your time.
Can you guys hear me in the back? Yep? All right, awesome. My name is Michael Nielsen, and I'm an Afghan war veteran. Thank you for taking time to listen to my statement. I want to open you with a couple of questions. $86,836 of taxpayer money. That's just insane. So I guess here's my questions for you.
Sir, can you speak up just a little bit more?
Is this better? Yes. Awesome. Do I have white privilege or Asian privilege? Or am I both? I'm white, I'm Asian. What about you? Do you feel oppressed? Oppressed that you hold a position of power and influence on the Downers Grove Library Board? If the answer is no, then I ask, why are you using our hard-earned taxpayer dollars for a consultant that stands with racist Marxist ideology? What will you achieve with indoctrinating our children with this repulsive ideology? Do you as an individual believe that segregation should be allowed back into our society? As you know, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. stated in his Lincoln Memorial Address in 1963 that, I quote, "I have a dream that all four of my children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character." Those are some powerful words. I want you to cease and desist from hiring these decisive Marxist consultants who are teaching our children how to hate each other as well hate our great nation in order to push their political narrative. Frankly, children do not see skin color. They see a person, and they become friends no matter what background they come from. Very innocent. Racism is taught. It's not inherited. I am a combat veteran, as I said. I was deployed to Afghanistan. I met a lot of extraordinary men and women who have served this great nation. They have literally signed their names on the line, as well as I. It didn't matter about race, creed, color, religion, etc. It didn't matter. We just wanted to come back on home, see our loved ones, and just be together and have a cohesive bond with each other, and I still stay in touch with them today. Hate and racism doesn't have a home here. It might in your home, but not in our schools, our community. If you want to be a social justice warrior, then I suggest you just go ahead and step off your chair. Let somebody else go ahead and take in charge. Somebody that is willing to go ahead and put in political standards in our library that is not indoctrinating our kids, not indoctrinating others as well. Last thing I want you to remember, and the last question I want you to really, really consider asking each other and yourselves every single day that you wake up. What is America? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a dream? I'll tell you what America is. It's a great nation. It's a diverse nation. People from countries all over the world come to this nation just to seek and pursue the freedom and happiness that we have today. These people want to strive and better themselves, better each other, and their lives and their family. CRT has no home here. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you.
Just a quick reminder that we are going to bypass applause and background comments to save time. Also, if individuals have made a point that you want to make, please consider leaving it out of your statement. So far, all of our statements have been pretty much 5 minutes, and I know we still have quite a long ways to go. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening. My name's Eileen Briner. I'll project. I'm not shouting. I live in Downers Grove. First off, I'd like to say that I don't hate anyone, and I'm not superior to anyone. I'm here tonight to reiterate my concern for the youth of Downers Grove that the drag queen bingo was directed at. These are 12 to 17-year-olds. Do you remember that age? It's awkward. Bodies are changing. Kids just want to remain kids, but life marches on, and everyone has to become adults. As their bodies are changing, they're asking lots of questions. This is normal, but along comes the library presenting the idea of gender change or gender-bending ideas to a highly susceptible age group. The library has always been a wholesome place for the youth of this community. It's been a trusted establishment for kids. But the presentation of a drag queen to this age group goes against all of that. This is grooming of some teenagers. It can put a child on a course of irreversible damage. We must not allow this. Let's look at what a drag queen is. A drag queen is a person, usually male, who wears drag clothing and makeup to imitate and often exaggerate female gender signifiers and gender roles for entertainment purposes. As a woman, I'm insulted by a drag queen. Big hair, big makeup, and sexualized performance does not represent women. Do you remember when women wanted to be respected for their intellect? This is opposite of that. This is imposing the idea that gender is about external appearance. We need to be teaching kids to develop who they are, to become the authentic individual person that they are. This individuality cannot be imposed on them externally. Every person must develop from the inside out, not the outside in. This presentation is a disservice to every child's development. The library must promote healthy children. This program promotes disturbing, unhealthy ideologies. This type of sexualized presentation does not belong in a public library to impressionable youth who are just developing their own identity as a young adult. This is grooming. It does not serve to educate them in any way, but rather its sexualized content can be mind-bending. Is this what we want in our library? I say no. The library should not be the impetus to start some youth on the journey to a mutilated body and years of destructive hormones. Let's let our youth grow up without the library introducing sexualized performance for them. If inclusivity is a real goal, then let's truly get inclusive and include programming for pro-life and chastity programs. If the library doesn't do that, then you're just being a hypocrite. I have with me the discovery report on a QR code. If anybody wants to read it, I can get you one. You need to read it. It is egregious. Our library spent over $86,000 on it and will spend more if it is not stopped. This document is about equity. We believe in equality, where persons are judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. Julie, if you truly believe in equity, you should give up your job and give it to a marginalized person. Otherwise, you're just a hypocrite. Lead with love.
All right, circling back on the request to not repeat points, we have so far established the price of the discovery report at $86,000. We have discussed the terms indoctrination. We know that drag queen bingo was for 12 to 17-year-olds. We've heard the word grooming. We understand it was a drag queen bingo event, and we've talked about the discovery report. So please try and refrain from repeating these topics.
Madam President, point of order, I don't think it's our job to try to editorialize the comments. I don't think...
I'm Rich Brennan, a Downers Grove taxpayer, and I think we haven't properly recognized the great leadership of our governor on this subject. J.B. Pritzker is the leading funder of gender activism for K through 12 children. He starts in kindergarten. J.B. simply wants to end the concept of male and female. That is his political agenda. His political agenda doesn't belong in school. It doesn't belong in the library. My political agenda doesn't belong there either. Y'all have a responsibility to be fair. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ed Briner, Downers Grove resident. Can you hear me now? Great. Though we applaud you for canceling the children's drag queen show, we cannot forgive you for your failure to exercise good judgment, failure to distinguish between good and evil, failure to distinguish between right and wrong by planning a children's drag queen show. The Downers Grove Library and Board should be defending and protecting our children from potential sexual predators rather than hosting and exposing them to drag queen adult entertainment and strange men. This is grooming. Then there's your waste of taxpayer dollars for the $86,000 report and hiring RGW Consulting. All residents should read this report, and it is on the Library Board website. Here are a few of the lowlights. The Downers Grove Library staff and board are racist and too white. I quote from the report, "Racism has historically pervaded the library system. This is most evident in the reality that the library's most senior leaders are all white." The entire report implies that the Downers Grove community is racist and refers often to our whiteness. I'm appalled. $86,000 for this racist report. It's not worth the paper it's written on. Let me tell you, I've been a Downers Grove resident since 1953. Downers Grove is not racist. We don't hate. We're not bigots. This rhetoric should stop. We're parents for the rights and protecting of our own children. Authorizing and paying for this racist discovery report further shows that you're not capable of wisely carrying out the fiscal responsibilities needed to manage the Downers Grove Library. With these two particular inexcusable decisions, you've lost public trust and the support of the community to carry out your duties of running the library. Therefore, I call for the immediate firing of Ms. Milovic, Library Director, Ms. Lizzie Makowski, who came up with the drag queen idea, and any others who were responsible for imagining and scheduling the drag queen show and supporting this insidious discovery report.
Good evening. My name is Jim Wool. I'm a resident of Downers Grove. In 2004, the Downers Grove Library had pamphlets listing 20 books extolling the homosexual lifestyle. These pamphlets were paid with taxpayer dollars. When I asked the director of the library why the library did not also have pamphlets available listing book titles offering a different point of view, after all, if the mission of the library is to educate, then different points of view need to be presented. The director explained that the library determined that the community had an interest in books advocating the homosexual lifestyle and that there was not a demand for books advocating the traditional family. I then asked the director for a printout of how many times the books listed on the pamphlets were checked out over the last 3 years. When the director completed the research, it told a very different story. More than half of the books on the pamphlet were never checked out over the course of 3 years. Furthermore, not a single book on the list was checked out more than 3 times over the course of 3 years. In other words, the reason given for creating the pamphlet, that there was a demand of interest from the residents of Downers Grove, was completely fabricated. Plain and simple, the director and the library board lied. This was a brazen lie to advance their political agenda. When I pointed out the discrepancy in what the library trustees stated and what the evidence revealed, the director removed the pamphlets from the library. Fast forwarding to this year, the director and many on this library board have engaged in another game of deception. In December of 2021, the Downers Grove Library sent out an email to the community supporting the book Queer Nation. This was odd because the book controversy originated in the high schools of Downers Grove, not the library. Yet the library decided to weigh in on the issue. Why? To advance your progressive political agenda. What you conveniently admitted from the email that was sent out to the community was the fact of why the parents and students opposed the book. They opposed it because of a sexually lewd illustration in the book. The illustration showed a high school age boy performing oral sex on another high school age boy. This is why the parents and students were upset and demanded the book's removal from the high school's libraries. Would you defend a book that showed a high school age female performing oral sex on a high school male? I'm sure you would condemn the book. Yet you defended the book Queer Nation. The email also stated the challenge was raised not by students, but by parents. This indicated that you, Julie, and the trustees believe that parents should remain silent in matters concerning their children. That parents should simply defer to their so-called progressive elites. Yes, of course, this challenge was raised by parents. We are parents, and we will defend our children. Yes, Julie, we will act as responsible adults, responsible parents. What is so shocking is that you abhor the right of parents to make decisions that affect the lives of their children, to defend their children against the perverse ideology of progressive agenda. In that same email that was sent out in December of 2021, the Board of Library Trustees, and you, Julie, stated that the library stands with the LGBTQ community. In your statement to the Downers Grove residents, you said the following: the library fully condemns all discrimination, harassment, and violence against members of the LGBTQ community. In the wake of the Dobbs decision by the United States Supreme Court, churches and pro-life women's centers were vandalized and firebombed. Actual acts of violence were committed by left-wing groups against churches and pro-life women's centers. The pro-life community was harassed, discriminated against, and witnessed terrible acts of violence. Yet, the Downers Grove Library issued no statements of support for the pro-life community, and the library did not issue emails condemning the violence committed by the left-wing groups. Where was your sense of outrage over the discrimination and violence that was perpetrated against the pro-life community? Your silence,
Sir, you're at 5 minutes.
exposed your progressive narrow-mindedness, bias, and bigotry. You have also stated that the LGBTQ community does not feel welcomed. Well,
Sir,
there
can
is
you-
no litmus test for residents to
Sir, your
use the
time is up.
library.
Sir, your time is up.
Anyone can enter the library. Anyone can sit and read in our library.
Sir, we are moving on to the next
Anyone can
speaker.
use the
I made
study
the rules
rooms in our
extremely and
library.
painfully clear. 5 minutes.
Anyone can receive a library card.
Sir, your time is
Anyone
up.
can check out a book, and anyone can attend a library event. So your claim of discrimination is a canard.
Keep pounding.
All are welcome. Well,
Your time is up,
except
sir.
the many people who simply want to use the library and not to be
You can
verbally
finish that
and visually
sentence and please
assaulted
move.
with your progressive agenda. Those residents certainly are not welcome. So upon further review, you do discriminate.
Can we shut off the mic?
Pride is considered the worst of the 7 deadly sins. Your pride has been on full display.
Sir,
as
this is
witnessed by your
absolutely...
righteous emails with LGBTQ.
Sir, this is absolutely inappropriate.
and the
You need to
drag
sit
queen
down.
event.
You're now at 7 or 8 minutes.
People have talked for more than 5 minutes.
Absolutely not. I have a timer on
No,
every single
people
person.
have spoken for more than 5
Absolutely
minutes.
false. Absolutely false.
Julie and the trustees, the library is not your personal institution to indoctrinate the community with your political agenda. You believe that if the community did not conform to your condescending, elitist, progressive agenda, then this community, in your warped opinion, deserves to be punished, deserves to be mocked. But this is what self-appointed social justice bullies engage in. You do not build hope. You do not build community. No, you revel in sowing division and chaos.
All right, I'm calling a 5-minute adjournment. 5 minutes, everyone.
Point of order, you can't adjourn without a vote.
City upon a hill.
Recess.
Instead,
A 5-minute recess.
you are
You cannot.
vultures preached upon
You
your
have to have a
throne
vote
of
for a recess.
intolerance.
You have to have a vote for a recess.
You prowl about,
We're taking
ready
a
to
5-minute
devour
recess.
anyone who dares dissent
to have a vote
from
for
your radical progressive agenda. An iron curtain of intolerance has descended upon this library.
Can't adjourn without a vote. Hey, folks.
Before judging this community,
We're bringing the board back in to vote to adjourn. Please,
recess.
please quiet in the chambers.
Is there a motion to take a 5-minute recess?
I'd like to move for a 5-minute adjournment.
5-minute recess.
Sorry. Wrong terminology.
Is there a
I'd like to
second?
move for a 5-minute
Yes, I will second.
recess.
All in favor, say
Hold
aye.
on, we have to have discussion. I'd like to have some discussion on the motion. I want to address the audience. Listen, we need to try to stick to the guidelines. Hold on. I've been to many village council meetings. There's a plus and minus with the time limit, but we got to keep it reasonable. It would be inappropriate for the board to cut you off at 5 minutes with a hard cutoff. But we ask you, hold on, folks. Let me just finish my thought, please. We'll let you finish. When you hit that 5 minutes, please try to finish your thought, and then we can move on. I think that will make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak and we keep order in the room. Okay?
Shall we vote on the 5-minute recess?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? We will recess for 5 minutes.
All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Can we have our next speaker?
Hello, I'm David Deal, and I'm a resident of Downers Grove. Can you all hear me back there okay? All right, I'll talk louder. I won't talk longer, though. Yes, I'm a resident of Downers Grove since 1997, and I care about the welfare of this community. I care about the children of this community because they are the future of this community. Much of the criticism of drag queen bingo at the public library has characterized drag queens as groomers and pedophiles, sexual abusers. Well, I decided to do a little bit of research into grooming, sexual predators, and sexual abusers to find out what do the facts say. According to RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 93% of people who sexually abuse children are well known to that child. Now, of that 93%, who do you think comprises the largest group? Well, it's family members. Well, who else might be in a position, most likely, to groom or sexually abuse a child? People in authority, like teachers, clergy members, coaches. My friends, if you're concerned about the safety of your children and you're concerned about having your children groomed, and you're looking at drag queens, my friends, you are looking in the wrong place. You will not find them on that list. I challenge everyone here to research drag queens, pedophilia, and you find out what you uncover. Are you finding about anecdotes and accusations, or are you finding real facts, statistics, and trends? I guarantee you're not going to find out that this is a real trend or a real problem. But if you look up, say, priests, coaches, Little League coaches, or Boy Scouts of America, look that up. And look up sexual abuse of children, you're going to find some very disturbing trends. You're not going to find drag queens anywhere near those stories. My friends, please do your homework. If you care about the future of your children, do not listen to hate groups like Awake Illinois that spread hatred and encourage violence.
Quiet, please.
To the Downers Grove Public Library, I say this. I support you and I love you. You are leading this community, and I'm proud of Drag Queen Bingo and everything that you do as a library. You are a service to this community. Awake Illinois is a threat to this community. Thank you.
Just a reminder that, as you've noticed, it's hard to sometimes hear some of the speakers, so I'd appreciate no background noise, talking, any other noises. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Laura Hoyce, resident of Downers Grove since 1985. We're fighting for parents' rights to raise their children as they see fit and for children's right to be children. The last thing we want in our community is children being exposed to sexually charged content at our library. Lewd adult content does not belong at the public library or at a library event for any age group. Despite the mainstream media reports about alleged threats of violence that caused the drag queen cancellation, we have confirmed through FOIA requests and information obtained that there was actually no violence at all. There were no credible threats. This is simply not true. Canceling drag queen bingo was the right thing to do. We don't want raucous, raunchy events for our children. Concerned parents and residents in this community are telling you loud and clear to stop. Stop scheduling drag events and inviting minors to register with no parental notification. Stop discarding the classics and ushering in tawdry sexual books like Genderqueer. Stop displaying LGBTQ flyers in an attempt to force people to validate sinful lifestyles as normal. Stop accosting us with LGBTQ hosts at the library entrance during Pride Month. No, thank you. How would it be if we had pro-God, pro-life hosts at the entrance of the library with godly materials on display? Stop displaying combative art like the distasteful twist on Norman Rockwell's famous art American works that is currently in the library. It is absolutely insulting to Americans. Stop inappropriate allocation of tax dollars to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Downers Grove is not systemically racist. This is not a racist community. I've lived here for a long time, and I can attest to that, and so can many others. Stop promoting the library director and Democrat board members' personal political agendas. Actually, what you're doing in prioritizing pride and LGBTQ and trans is not permitted under the law, and let me explain why. The Illinois Local Library Act, Section 1.3, requires this board to use the library for the benefit of the greatest number of residents and taxpayers. The library is duty-bound to serve the entire community, not just part of it. The library staff members would have us believe that they're promoting civil discourse and inclusiveness. We disagree. The library is outwardly and actively canceling and excluding Christians and conservatives in favor of anti-racism and Marxist theory. The library's bylaws require trustees to avoid situations in which their personal interests might be served and to disqualify themselves immediately whenever the appearance of a conflict of interest exists. Well, there is a conflict of interest. There's political activism every day in this library. For the last several years, I see it. I used to love to go to the library. I step inside there, I don't feel welcome anymore because of this political activism and the prioritization of your agenda. Political activism simply does not belong in our library. Libraries' trustees hold positions of public trust. They are expected, per the bylaws, to conduct themselves according to the highest ethical standards and to maintain absolute truth, integrity, and honor. This is not what you're doing. The library director and the Democrat board members have violated Illinois library law, the library's own bylaws, and their duty of public trust. A great number of the residents in Downers Grove object and have objected to the DGPL's corrupt vision. Where to go from here? What should you do? Well, start to comply with the Library Act. Start to comply with your own library bylaws by serving all constituents. Do not steal any more tax dollars to serve your own political agendas. Hands off our kids. Do not sexually influence children without our consent. Let's get rid of RGW Consulting and come together to turn this around. Thank you.
Hello, Donald Glass, resident Downers Grove. I don't have any prepared remarks or research or anything else, but just kind of wanted to ask the question, is there something inherently wrong with someone being in drag, or dressing up in drag, or performing in drag?
Could you speak just a little bit closer?
Is there something inherently wrong with someone dressing up in drag, performing in drag? It's a thing that people do, and it is something that is common in public entertainment. You know, my reference to that would be any number of high-grossing Hollywood films, from Some Like It Hot, to Mrs. Doubtfire, to Tootsie, to anything Medea, to anything Eddie Murphy. They're all dressed up as women and performing as women, and there is nothing inherently sexual about it. It is performance as a woman. Now, you may say, oh, well, what about drag queens? Well, what's the difference between a drag queen and somebody dressing up in a movie? Is their costume a little more flamboyant? Maybe so, but does that make it sexual? No, it does not. It's just a costume. So, in the context of drag queen bingo, where is the sexuality? Where is the indoctrination? Indoctrination is, if you'll excuse me a moment, indoctrination, the definition of, is the process of teaching a person or a group to accept beliefs uncritically. So, in the middle of playing bingo, where is the indoctrination? People complain that drag performers are sexualizing their children. Well, what is sexualizing? That means to, basically attribute sex to something. So who are the people that are attributing sex to anything here? It's certainly not the drag performer. So the drag performer is just appearing in costume and performing. They are not doing anything inherently sexual. So, people who think that they need to defend children, and let's define children here. Apparently it was anybody from 7th grade up through high school. Well, high school kids are young adults. They're not children. They can decide what they want to attend if they want to, within reason. What? I trust my children to do what is right for them because I have raised them. I am not worried about what anyone else is doing with their children. I only worry about my children. So, why people feel the need to impose a worry about sexuality or indoctrination on something that has nothing to do with that, I don't understand why that is. And so that's about all I can say at this time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is, can everyone hear me? Hear me? No? Is this better?
Yeah.
All right. My name is Tina Chan, and I have a question. Is this the Downers Grove Library Board that wanted to put up drag queen bingo event? Is this the Downers Grove Library Board that wants to sexualize children with drag queens? And now, is this the board that has a new value system as set out in the Downers Grove Equity Strategic Plan and the Discovery Report that have nice names but are completely opposite to what they mean? After reading the Discovery Report, which many have suggested, written by a woman named Rashida Graham Washington, and your subsequent Equity Strategic Plan, the goals are very clear. Critical race theory needs to be taught everywhere, and everyone is racist. Doesn't matter what you've done or what you have said, it says in there, everybody is racist, the system is racist, and especially white people. So the write-up in this Discovery Report provides zero evidence, zero quotes, and zero actual interactions between people showing racism. The entire premise of this report is, again, everybody is racist, whether you know it or not. Well, let me tell you, based on my findings after reading your reports, the Board of Library Trustees and those who agree with the report, and this woman, Rashida Graham Washington, are racist and promote racism Because the idea of inclusion and diversity mean that if you are white, you are racist. No matter what. If someone does not adhere to these new values of what it means to be inclusive, then the person needs to be re-educated to your dogma. So we know what this is. This is called the liberal world order, the new world order. It's fascist, authoritarian, communist, it's the administrative state, and it's the real slave system. Critical race theory is your dogma, and it's oppressive. You use word manipulation and jargon to achieve mind-controlled programming so children and adults will be subservient to the state. Just admit it. If you're anti-freedom, anti-family, and anti-God, just say it. The words equity, inclusion, and diversity have to be redefined by you, by the people writing this report, this woman writing this report, and, I guess based on what other people want is the government. So I also like to bring another thing up, which is this RJW Consulting Group spent $86,000 for 30 hours of interviews, and assuming it's a 40-hour work week, this woman earned $2,150 per hour. This is outrageous. What's minimum wage? $15 an hour? But to give you some context, when I hire a highly experienced lawyer from a very big law firm, it's like $750 an hour. And that person better be good. So this is a pure example of cronies or people within an inner circle who are contractors pocketing taxpayer money. Not to mention the wasted library staff time whose salaries are taxpayer funded. So really the cost is more than $86,000. Every one of you needs to be held accountable for this. We will not forget, and you need to repent and come to Jesus Christ. Thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to come up to say that I support. Sorry? Is that better? Shh. Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
All right. I'll try and yell. I just wanted to say that I really supported the drag show bingo, and I really. Sorry. It meant a lot to me when I saw that we were having that at our library, because when I was a kid, we would see, we didn't have things like that. It didn't exist. And it wasn't until I was much older that my parents took me to a show where it was an all-male show where they went and they changed outfits and they changed into women's clothing. And for me, I really, really enjoyed it. It was just great. It was a great experience of seeing the performance. And I just wanted to come up here and say that. That's all.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Just a little bit louder.
Yeah. Probably it's because I'm too short for the microphone. Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. It's better. All right. I didn't plan to speak, so I don't have a whole lot of stuff written down. But I want to talk a little bit. First of all, I want to thank the library for putting on an inclusive event like the Drag Queen Bingo. I think it was great. Disappointed my kids are a little too old for it now. But I have raised 4 kids in Downers Grove. All of them were heavily involved in things going on at the library. 2 of them would have said, pass, not interested. The other 2 probably would have enjoyed it, and 1 in particular would have really benefited. So I think events like that are super important to having an open and diverse, community. So I want to thank you for that. But I also want to talk a little bit about parental rights, because that's been discussed quite a bit. And I, as a parent, also have parental rights, and mine were kind of infringed upon. If I view an event like this to be valuable for my kid for any number of reasons that are completely personal and totally up to me and my family, that option was taken away. And it was taken away in my community, where I want my child to feel welcomed. And if my child were sitting in this audience today, they might not feel very welcome. And that's really sad. So this was a great event. I hope you're not scared off from doing more things like this. There are kids who need to be part of events like this that welcome diversity. Any of you watched the Flip Wilson show in the 60s? You know, like drag is just not that radical. I don't know why we've turned it into something so radical. I also want to talk a little bit about transgenderism, because I think that's misunderstood. And it frustrates, there's people are drawing an alliance, or maybe an alliance doesn't need to, or an inference doesn't need to be drawn. But transgenderism, the community of teenagers who identify as transgender has pretty much the highest suicide rate in the country. And that's a fact. And there is only one known treatment for avoiding the depression, the suicide, and the mental health issues that come with being transgender in society, because it is society that creates that issue, not the person. And that issue is allowing someone to be comfortable living their life authentically, living their life out in the open, and to be loved and accepted for who they truly are. So if you don't believe those statistics, they're out there, go look for them. Things like this help that community, and it's so important. Thank you.
Before I start my speech or my comments, I just want to speak to the gentleman who said that there's no basis that drag queens are child molesters or that they're in libraries. The Houston Public Library has apologized for featuring a convicted child molester last fall during its Drag Queen Storytime series. A media spokesman for the library confirmed one of the program's drag queens, Tatiana Malanina, is Alberto Guerrero, a 32-year-old child sex offender. In 2008, he was convicted of assaulting an 8-year-old boy. The Downers Grove Public Library attempted to produce Drag Queen Bingo, and I think it was a blessing. It exposed the library and the system of public libraries to the broader public for what it has become. No longer a neutral provider of information, now infested with social justice warriors, propagators of the most radical ideas leeching from academia. Child sexualization and grooming is available at your public library for grades 7 through 12. Parental consent is not required. The only adults permitted, a 300-pound man dressed as a grotesque caricature of a woman. No idea is too depraved for the Downers Grove Public Library to push at taxpayers' expense, $86,000. I will not have my free speech restricted because someone else has mentioned it. This boilerplate consultant's report is a document that proposes to address racism by treating people by skin color, differently by skin color. Tired tropes, recycled CRT cribbed from Ibrahim Kendi, pretty weak tea. The long march through America's institutions has come to the library system. The library is corrupt, not in a legal sense, but in its decay. Look at the recommended titles. Woke Pap abounds, all showcased in librarians' choice displays that checks diversity boxes but pales in quality to the great books of the past. Raise your fist and take a knee, Julie. You peddle a divisive view of a stained and broken America. I mean a land acknowledgement, pure, unadulterated virtue signaling, a woke ritual devoid of impact, meant to divide people and sow guilt. BLM, LGBTQ, defund the police, racial animus, and let's not forget the DEI fetishes are the library's new true agenda. A legion of publicly funded and pensioned, defined benefit pensioned, library employees push the gender industrial complex on children. An institution whose core mission should be to serve children instead participates in the ritual debasing of childhood. What was once the beloved institution, now sullied. Thank you. But social justice warriors always double down, so community objection is just more proof that there's still critical work to be done. Label of a bigot or hater is affixed to those who don't support the LGBTQ agenda at our library. It's an attempt to chill debate. Words are not hate, so go ahead and hurl the vitriol. The kids are worth it. We'll stand for them. Drag Queen Bingo, involuntarily canceled, is what I call it. An example of what our library seeks to deliver. If we don't do it, the children will feel excluded and take their own lives. The justification for the drag queen performance for kids. Ironically, identical logic used to rationalize mutilating surgeries, including physical castration of children. That's now a gender as of September 15th. Castration eunuch of a boy. At age 17, it's recommended. That's someone who's going to kill themselves when they're 21, by the way. It feels like we are trapped in a bad art house horror movie. Tragic. It's tragic that LGBTQ suicide stats are offered. The tragic LGBTQ suicide stats will be offered. The Trevor Project will be attached. Unfortunately, the Trevor Project is based on junk science, but who cares, right? It supports your narrative. Suicide has many causes. Roots and causes are complex and cannot be coded to a lack of inclusion any more than abuse of social media. For all the keyboard warriors out there click-clacking away, social justice will not be attained by doubling down on your bad ideas. We all want the best for children, regardless of their sexual orientation. I'm sure one of the numerous woke pastors will offer you their basement to further your journey of inclusion. Just do not expect the entire community to support it in the library. Julie, I'm going to ask you to take off your social justice warrior cape and resign. You've done enough damage to the community, its reputation. You've succeeded in dividing us, agitating both sides. Your staff feels unsafe. You've got a contingent of armed police here for some reason. It's time to move on, time to get back to playing field. And if this case for incompetence is not compelling, then the recommendation from the equity audit should be actioned and open up the top job to underrepresented communities. Julie,
Sir, you're
it's
at 5
time to
minutes.
walk the woke.
My name is Gloria Walshrock. As a Downers Grove taxpayer for more than 20 years, I and my family fully support the library, its board, its director, and its staff in its mission to be intentionally inclusive and welcoming to all members of our community. I'm particularly proud that our library has created ways to let community teens know that they are seen and welcomed no matter who they are. I understand that the Drag Queen Bingo Night had to be canceled, and it is certainly of most importance to ensure the safety of staff and participants. But it's a sad statement about our community and about our nation that this kind of programming for our authentic selves is being threatened in a public space where people can choose to participate or not. I hope the library will continue to offer services and programs to meet the needs of everyone in the Downers Grove community, and not just a small vocal portion of the community. I believe that the Downers Grove community supports you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christine Martin. I'm a resident of Downers Grove.
You'll need to speak just a little bit louder.
Sure. So, can you hear me okay? It's honestly been years since I have gone to the Downers Grove Library. The reason for that is that I no longer have faith that you are a respectable, upstanding institution. Years ago, my daughter, she was young, she brought me a book that she had taken from your library. It was a picture book. It was a thick book. It was full pages, no pictures. And she said, "Mom, what are the fairies doing in the fairy pond? I don't understand. So it's just a nice book for a 7 or 8-year-old about fairies, some story. I took the book, I read the page in question, and I clearly, as an adult, because I'm an adult, understood what the fairies were doing in the fairy pond. The fairies were having sex. To be real clear, the fairies were having an orgy. My daughter, fortunately, didn't understand this. She brought it to me, and she didn't understand it because she was a child, an innocent child, which is how she should have remained at that time, an innocent child. If anybody had explained it to her, however, it most likely would have confused her deeply, and if anything, scared her a bit, because she was not of age or mental ability to take that in, again, because she was a child. I took the book back to the library and brought it to the attention of the children's librarian. She was not concerned with the sexual content of the book and implied that I was the one in the wrong. So whether it be drag queen story hour, drag queen bingo hour, you have been putting questionable stuff in front of our kids for years. As for drag queen stuff, frankly, I'm not fazed by it. I honestly had been anticipating it much sooner than you brought it. I'm actually surprised it took you this long to shove it at the kids, because I have stepped away from the library. And it's nothing more, Drag Queen Story Hour also is nothing more than just another avenue to get at kids. It's all part of an agenda that is all over this country. Schools are one of the main culprits. But it's also saturated into our culture. It's grown into something completely different and completely unrecognizable to any rational, logical, thinking adult who cares about the health and well-being of children. For example, I give you other examples other than the library. The state of Illinois is adopting, through the National Sex Education Standard, NSES, radical sex education for our kids K through 12. K through 12, so I'll give you examples of this. Kids K through second grade are to learn how to define gender, gender binary, gender role stereotypes. Grades 3 through 5 learn to distinguish between sex assigned at birth and choose to be boy or girl. They learn how to define differences between cisgender, transgender, gender non-binary, gender expansive, and gender identity. Grade 6 and above learn a range of sexual positions and techniques. They learn different ways to masturbate. They learn oral sex, anal sex, vaginal sex, and this is for 6th graders. So naturally you wonder, where'd reading, writing, and arithmetic go? Another example is of irresponsible adults is that, you'll think I'm making this up, but do your research. If you've not heard of furries, furries are kids and some adults who believe that they are cats. And I want to clarify, in no way am I making fun of this, because I'm a mature adult and I care about the mental well-being and health of kids. When I asked my 11-year-old niece if she knew what a furry was, she was very quick to say yes. They are kids in my class, and they only meow if the teacher asks them a question. They have different meows for the different feelings they have. There's also a school north of us here in Illinois that places litter boxes in bathrooms for children who believe they're a cat. A responsible adult would get that children need help when they grow and be healthy in mind and spirit. Many adults in this room tonight think it's healthy for a child to believe that there's something they're not. And that is a dangerous, dangerous space for a child. And you and your mindset are going along with this. So if you don't believe the furries, look it up. It's a real thing. Hospitals are also now in the game. Right here, close to us, Lurie's Children's Hospital has created partnerships with local school districts to promote radical gender theory and provide kink, BDSM, and trans-friendly sex toys for children. Look it up. It's all right there. They are openly saying it. They are performing mastectomies, hysterectomies, removing male genitalia on children, doing facial surgeries to create looks of the opposite sex. These are just a few examples. So many of you here tonight will call me a hater. You'll call me all sorts of names tonight. I'm used to it. I expect nothing less of you. Those of you who preach kindness, tolerance, and inclusivity, I know how many names I will be called. But I'm confident I'm not a hater, but I've grown angry to perceive to be irresponsible adults confusing children and not letting them grow naturally into what they could be. So I call myself a protector of children, which is the opposite of a groomer. Remember, a villain doesn't recognize themselves as a villain. They think they're the good guys. They're actually causing great disturbance, though. So I beg you to reflect on your current mindsets and actions because you've grown dangerous, Julie, and the rest of you up there, not all of you, but the large majority of you. You're growing dangerous because you're unaware of the ramifications that will come to fruition as you are affecting certain children. I care about the children, and I implore you to do the same thing.
Hello, my name is Kelly Serenecki. I am a resident of Downers Grove. Thank you guys for volunteering to be here tonight. This is a kind of a complete waste of your time, but thank you for being here.
Let's go ahead and let her speak, please.
I want to start by saying that I have been teaching middle school children for 20 years and also have a transgender son. And I have not indoctrinated a single child in my 20 years of teaching. I have not taught anyone to be gay or queer or trans, even a Democrat. I just simply teach children to be kind and loving and forgiving of the world around them. I don't think that we are here tonight to find any sort of agreement on this issue. No one's going to, this side of the aisle is not going to step across and agree with the other side of the aisle and vice versa. It's just simply not going to happen. Agreement's not going to happen this evening. But what I hope some people can have is respect. Respect should be the goal. I'm quite positive that I do not agree with many of the values that many of you here tonight are instilling in your children. In fact, I find many of your beliefs unfathomable. And even though I disagree with how I believe you are grooming your children to be fearful, intolerant, spiteful adults, I am not making threats against you. I am not spewing hateful remarks to you. I am not scaring your children because of what you choose to teach them. I have to step back from my beliefs and understand that your beliefs are grounded in the way that you have been taught and your own life experiences. And I have no right to take away from you your beliefs simply because I disagree with you. Maybe I believe that football grooms teenage boys to be aggressive, abusive men. And I would never, ever let my son play such a sport because I'm appalled by what it teaches. It's still your right to send your child to play football if you don't find any problems with it. We don't have to agree philosophically to ultimately agree to respect each other's decisions regarding the choices we make for our children. What I am asking those of you here who are opposed to these types of events being held in our library is to please just let us choose what we think is best for our children, and you can choose what you think is best for yours. It doesn't affect your children in any way if you choose not to send them. If my child is trans and is searching for a community of other teenagers who can help him feel connected, welcome, and safe in this world, then allow me to give that to him. I will agree to respect you and your perspective, even though I strongly disagree with most of what's being said here tonight, if you just agree to respect mine and stop telling me what to expose my child to. In the spirit of this community moving forward with a goal to provide avenues for all children, I am hopeful that we will place members of this board, thank you very much, Julie, who will help all children in this town live a good life, a safe life, and I hope that you can continue to serve this community in the respectful way that you have so far. Thank you very much.
Please stop clapping, everyone.
My name is Natalie Murphy, and I'm a part of the aforementioned age group of the canceled Drag Queen Bingo. In fact, I was proudly signed up. As I sit here and listen today to the remarks made in a room of primarily adults, I cannot help but feel a deep anger and sadness on behalf of my friends, both straight and identifying as LGBTQ+ IA. I say this as a privileged, white, straight girl who has been fortunate enough to have parents who have provided me with the opportunity to develop my own persona without the influence of theirs. Both communities, anyone for that matter, will not benefit from lack of easily obtainable and safe information about the LGBTQ+ IA community because it is real. It's important to have empathy and to have respect for others, regardless of stance, regardless of religion, race, or sexual orientation. It's important to learn and be educated. This is a fundamental right. I challenge those who are here today to continue to show up in your community and voice your opinion, but do so with consideration for those around you and those you are talking about. This is a basic consideration that we've been taught since we started our education. This is a basic concept of respect. We cannot politicize kindness and respect. This will create a divide. History has shown us repeatedly this is true. Unity and division, these words are not synonyms. At my school, DGS, we have a saying, be respectful, responsible, and engaged. And I'd like to remind everyone of that, regardless of age or stance, that we must always be respectful of those around us, engage in our community, and responsible, and take action. With this, I would like to thank the DGPL Library for their consideration of safety and for their persistence in providing a space for everyone to be represented, and especially and specifically acknowledge the hard work and patience of Ms. Milivek. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Deeney. Total disclosure here, I am a board member of the Friends of the Library of Downers Grove. I also am not married. I have no kids. I'm not an uncle, and I'm not a godparent, unfortunately. But I have friends who have kids, and I'm as close to them as if they were my blood. And some of them are gay, and they live out of state, and they said if they had a program like this in their library, they'd be thrilled, because there's nothing like that for them. So I applaud the library for doing that. Also, I've been to do 2 drag shows. There's a place downtown called the Baton Club, not too far from our office. A bunch of us twice over about a 5-year period went there. All of us are straight. We all had a fabulous time. They're fabulous entertainers. We had a blast. I bet this person that was supposed to do the drag bingo, I bet he put a really good show. I'm really jealous that I wouldn't be able to see it. Fabulous entertainers. I'm old. Well, I turned 60 this year. I grew up in the 70s. All my friends loved Kiss. They all loved David Bowie and his Ziggy Stardust persona. They all grew up to be straight, conservative, wonderful family people. I think a lot of kids at that age, they do respond to the outrageousness of those performers, and a drag queen would be the same way. And I was going to say about the drag show I went to, the 2 of them, they were about as sexually explicit as The Sound of Music. There was nothing explicit, and I think this performer would be smart enough to realize that. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Hello. I am Ezri Blau. I am 13, and I was signed up for the Drag Queen Bingo. I have now completely forgotten what I was going to say, but I'm sure I will get back on track in a second. I am sad to have not had the opportunity to have gone to the drag queen bingo. I thought it was going to be really fun, and all of my friends, or all of the ones I had talked to about it, who were enrolled, were also really excited, and all of the ones who I hadn't talked to about it, who weren't enrolled, but I had talked to about it, were also really excited for it, and we were all really sad when we realized it was canceled. A drag queen is just someone in a costume. And so I don't see any problem with someone in a costume playing a game and singing a song for kids. Is there anything wrong with me wearing a crown, talking to all of you guys? I'm pretty sure that all of you would agree that there is nothing wrong with that. So why would there be anything wrong with a drag queen singing a song and playing a game? That is all I can think of at the moment. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Andy Voinovich. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a proud resident of Downers Grove and a clergy member in this community. I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for attempting to offer this programming. As someone who works very closely with the LGBTQ community as a member and with youth, this is right on track for people's experiences. People are coming out younger and younger. The average age is 13 years and 3 months, right around the age of those who were invited to attend this event. It is an incredible thing to have the opportunity to witness people who are like you, who are adults. In the LGBTQ plus drop-in center that I run, a youth recently shared that they had never known an out LGBTQ plus adult until they came into that space. And what you are offering in Drag Queen Bingo was an opportunity for youth to see that they had a future. So thank you for that. Thank you, too, for considering the safety of youth in your decision-making process. I'm devastated that you had to cancel, but I'm grateful and not surprised that you showed the wisdom, right, to try to host that event, and then when it was no longer safe, to let it go. I also want to take a moment to say thank you, Julie, for your leadership at this time, and I am so sorry for the strong vitriol and hate that you have experienced in this time. I hope you know that many of us are absolutely grateful for your leadership, and also to the board, who are volunteers offering their time. Thank you for your love for the library and the work you do, and for creating space for all people. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sorry for our community that this is where we're at, but I hope that this is an eye-opening experience for us, and we recognize a bit of who we are as a community, what we struggle with, and what's ahead for us. So thank you so much, and I wish you the best. I wish you peace and rest after this meeting.
Hi, my name is Matt. I've been a Downers Grove resident for about 6 years, and I'll keep my remarks brief. I'm straight, I'm married, no kids. I had no plans to attend the event in question, but that doesn't mean it doesn't break my heart that the 40 teens who were excited to sign up, and one of whom you just heard from, didn't get to attend. And more than that, just having their identities so callously rejected by their community or elements of their community is truly heartbreaking, and I think we can do better as a community. I just want to affirm and support where the library was coming from. I think the misrepresentation of the event that we've heard tonight is really unfortunate, and I applaud the work the library has been attempting to, and I hope continues to attempt to do. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Amber Leckie. I recently graduated high school, but as a member of this community and a younger person in the community.
A little bit closer to the mic.
As a younger person in this community, I support what you are doing with this event. I think that it was very helpful, especially for people who might be questioning and unsure if they should come out or if they should, hide themselves from their families and their friends. I personally have a cousin who is transgender and didn't come out for years because he was terrified that his family would reject him. I think that this could definitely help our community become a more inclusive place. So thank you for trying to implement this event.
Hi, my name is Vera Miller. My husband and I have lived in Downers Grove and been library patrons since 2013. I'm here to support all of you in the library. I just want to state how supportive we both are of the Drag Queen Bingo program that was scheduled for this fall. And we very much want to see more programs like this held in our town to make sure that all residents, no matter their gender orientation, feel welcome and accepted. The library offers an amazing variety of programs, many of which we've participated in, and many we haven't. We're so glad that our local library includes diverse offerings to ensure that everyone in our community feels welcome. A police presence should not be needed in order for attendees of a library game of bingo to be safe from harassment or from threats. And we're deeply concerned about the misinformed and bigoted statements that have been made to both the library board and the village council about this program. Dressing or performing in drag is not necessarily sexual in any way. No more than any typically female hairstyles, clothing, makeup, and jewelry are automatically sexual or inappropriate. Drag has no association whatsoever with pornography, pedophilia, or grooming, quote-unquote, grooming minors. It is an art form and entertainment performance that often also celebrates LGBTQ identities. Like any singing or dance performance, it can be customized to be appropriate for audiences of different ages, which the library staff had already stated that it would be. Ironically, the hostile response to this event from members of our community fearing that teens will somehow be harmed by it risks causing actual harm to those same teens. It sends a message that people with a different gender expression or sexual orientation are not welcome in our town or are somehow wrong. Causing LGBTQ young people to feel excluded, ashamed of who they are, or that they need to pretend to be quote-unquote normal can lead to serious problems for them, including anxiety and depression, drug and alcohol use, and suicidal ideation. A 2022 survey from the Trevor Project, an organization that provides crisis support for LGBTQ youth, found that nearly half of LGBTQ young people had seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, and that these rates have trended upward over the past 3 years. Unfortunately, current trends in legislation and political rhetoric across the country are putting these youth more at risk. So an event like Drag Queen Bingo, where young people of all identities can find community, have fun, and feel welcome, is extremely important and positive for our youth, especially now. The equity, diversity, and inclusion efforts of the Downers Grove Library are crucial for the well-being of Downers Grove teens, and it is crucial for all of our Downers Grove leadership to make clear through their words and actions that we are a welcoming community that shows love, not hate. So please don't let the hateful comments of a few deter you from similar programming in the future. It is very much needed and appreciated as we all learn to be a more inclusive community. The bottom line is Downers Grove is and must be a community where we celebrate each other's differences, not one where everyone is forced to be the same. Thank you for your time.
My name is Robin Tryloff. I've lived in Downers Grove for more than 30 years, and I've served on the Downers Grove Public Library Foundation Board of Directors since 2017. As a resident, taxpayer, and devoted library patron, I'm here tonight to voice my unqualified support for the library, its Board of Trustees, and its extraordinary professional staff. I have 2 points that I want to make tonight. The first is why I deplore the recent intolerance, hate speech, and violent threats against our library and our staff. And the second is why our library is important and should be supported by all. First, the recent intolerance, hate speech, and threats of violence. It is the library's role to identify emerging trends relevant to our community. Article 1 of the Library Bill of Rights states that, quote, books and other library resources should be provided for the interest, information, and enlightenment of all people of the community the library serves. Materials should not be excluded because of the origin, background, or views of those contributing to their creation. A diverse collection should contain content by and about a wide variety of people and cultures to authentically reflect a variety of ideas, information, stories, and experiences. Close quotes. Our library does this by addressing equity, which extends beyond equality to deliberate and intentional efforts to create service delivery models that will make sure that community members have the resources they need. Sometimes these needs are different, not only because of race and ethnicity, but also owing to sexual orientation, gender identification, socioeconomic status, and physical ability. By law, public libraries cannot discriminate in the provision of access to books, media, or programming. As a trusted, neutral, safe space, the library is an ideal institution to lead dialogue and deliberation efforts for difficult topics in our community and should be respected as such. The library has the First Amendment right to speak in its own voice as a government agency about important matters. The library can exercise its prerogative to convey strong messaging that counters messages of bias, hatred, and discrimination. Such messaging can be proactive, affirmative, and ongoing, as well as a reaction to an incident of hateful conduct or speech. Our library can and does mount prominent signage throughout the library announcing its support for equality, diversity, and inclusion, and its belief in the human dignity of all persons, specifically those in marginalized communities. Library-sponsored programming and services can and should echo this message. I applaud our Library Board of Trustees and our outstanding professional staff for standing strong for professional ideals, for the breadth of needs required by our community, and for intellectual freedom. My second point, why is our library important? Intellectual freedom is guaranteed by the First Amendment, and it is one of the core values of the library profession. It promotes access to information, guides the defense against censorship, and is a type of public forum. The freedom to read statement states, quote, the freedom to read is essential to our democracy, close quotes. In a democratic society, individuals must be sufficiently knowledgeable to make informed decisions. Libraries provide their users with necessary information through a wide variety of tools from varying viewpoints, and it is essential that library resources remain free to use for all. Our library provides an impartial environment in which individuals and their interests are brought together with the universe of ideas and information spanning the spectrum of knowledge and opinions. Our library should be a welcoming and inclusive space for all library users, all workers, and all community members. It should be free of discrimination and threat to individual safety. The library services are always adapting to community changes, as are the library's roles and responsibilities. For instance, studies show that libraries become busier in times of economic downturn as they serve many at-risk individuals and families, people who take advantage of free services such as computer and internet access.
You're at 5 minutes.
I have 3 lines left. Free activities, employment advising, tax preparation. I'm allowed to finish my thought, and I'm not doing what the gentleman earlier did. Free books and other media. I'm going to close by repeating my unqualified support for the library, its Board of Trustees, and its extraordinary professional staff.
Just for everyone's information, there are 2 trustees that have timers. We are starting their timers exactly when the individuals start speaking. and we have extended the same courtesy to everyone to finish up their thoughts.
Good evening. My name is Jill Bartlemy, and I have been a resident of Downers Grove since...
Speak into your mic a little bit more.
I've been a resident of Downers Grove since 2009. I'm a mother of 2 beautiful daughters, and I'm here tonight to show my support for the library, for Julie, and all of you up there. I support your continued efforts to provide inclusive programs for all members of our community. I personally know and love far too many members of the LGBT+ community who have lived their entire lives as cisgendered, heterosexual individuals simply because that was all they knew. And they felt that there was something wrong with them. This is why inclusion, representation, and acceptance, and programs like this is so very important. One of my dear friends has a child who I used to babysit for, grew up in a very supportive household, but knew nothing other than what she was taught day to day. She was brilliant. She went to school, she joined the Navy, became a doctor, and married a man. And was unhappy because she was really a lesbian. Thank God now she gets to live her life as her true self. This shouldn't have to happen. No one should feel ashamed of whom they are. This is why we need more programs like this, and this is why I am so thankful for you. Optional programs and books that you provide are a crucial part of this inclusivity. Not all programs, events, books are for everyone. And we all have the right to disagree or dislike them. However, our own personal opinions should not be allowed to dictate what is right or wrong for the whole community. Like the other speaker so eloquently said, I'm not that eloquent of a speaker. Just because we don't agree, I don't agree with a lot of people, the way they raise their children. I'm not telling them how to raise their children. I don't want to tell them how to raise their children. It is none of my business. Stop telling me how to raise mine. Don't tell me that I am a groomer or a pedophile. Because I am smart enough and intelligent enough to actually know what a drag queen does. Again, thank you very much, and I just strongly encourage everyone to educate themselves, and I think that the misinformation and the political agendas that are being pushed around events like drag events and books and other things which led to the bingo being canceled due to threats are just simply unacceptable. People need to worry about their own kids and parent their own kids. That's what parenting is. Thank you.
My name is Norm Sidler. I'm a 40-year resident of Downers Grove. My pops is in the room tonight too, 83-year-old. I'll call you 73, Pops. So we were born and raised in our city in Downers Grove. And as I stand in line and listen to everybody, it's a lot of we, us, them. It's we. We, the people that pay the taxes in Downers Grove, hold you, the board, accountable for how you spend the money. And if there's so much angst about an activity called drag bingo, be the adult. Step away and say, maybe this is not the appropriate location. Julie, you opened the night with statistics. My question is, are those statistics the people that vote and pay, or is it just an opinion poll? You are in charge of a budget. You're a librarian for our kids, for our future. We give that to you in charge and hold that very tight, hold you accountable that this is a place for our kids. If something is this contentious, you have to go to bed at night and say, is it appropriate? So what we're asking for, what I'm asking for, I'll be concise, is accountability and truthfulness. When I hear that there were threats, I'm a 20-year member on the Police Pension Board. The FOIA request did not come out supporting threats. Now, maybe I didn't get all of them. But we have to be truthful to everyone. We can't make a narrative that's not truthful, and we will demand accountability. You, the library board, have grown our budget to over $6 million. We have an annual revenue in the village of Downers Grove of $62 million. You've grown to over almost 10% and north of our budget. Tonight I sat and listened to no support or questioning going over budget by $400,000. Westmont runs a library at half the cost. I'm not saying that that's the sufficient number. I'm just saying we need accountability, and we need to make sure where we're spending, we, the people's money, that puts you where you're at. You work for us. Thank you.
Josh Busby, he, them. I am a resident of Downers Grove and a clergy person in the neighborhood. I want to speak in favor of the board. I believe you all received my email several weeks ago, but I fully support events that promote inclusion and acceptance in our communities. I'm going to expand on a couple of things. The Trevor report was referenced a few speakers ago. That Trevor report also says that 1.8 million LGBTQ youth have strongly considered suicide in the last year because they're not represented. It also says that for every 45 seconds, an LGBTQ youth in the United States attempts suicide, which means in the time that we have debated this event, 200 youth in our country have attempted suicide because of the things we're debating. If you want to put a face to that statistic, I'm one of those survivors who attempted suicide at 13 years old because I was told that representation wasn't a good thing. Because I was told that being out was bad. I work with LGBTQ youth in this neighborhood. If you don't know LGBTQ youth in this neighborhood, it's probably because they don't trust you enough to tell you that's who they are. Because I hear their stories. I could name dozens of children in this neighborhood who are too afraid to tell their parents or their friends who they are. Because we have debates like this and tell them that it's not okay. If I would have had a drag queen bingo at 13 years old, I wouldn't be a survivor. I would just be someone who had gotten to live my teenage years. That's the issue with these events. If you don't want your children going to these events, that's fine. But there are children in this community that it could be a matter of life and death if they get to see people who look like them. If they get to see people who feel the way they feel about themselves, and tell them it's okay to live authentically as who they are. Because whether we allow drag queen bingo or not, there are still going to be gay and lesbian and transgender and all other forms of folks in our community. The question is, are they going to be accepted for who they are, or told that they have to hide away from the public light? I fully support inclusive events with the library and anywhere else in the community, because I think it's worth telling our children that whoever they are, they're important and they're loved by this community.
Thanks.
Make a motion to recognize the last six. One, two, three.
That was so eloquently said, I don't know if I can add much. My name is Hillary Denk. I'm a lifelong resident of Downers Grove and have been a lover of our Downers Grove Public Library, myself and my family, for my 58 years I've been here. And I'm coming to you to tell you I support what you're doing. I support diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am so pleased that Julie is our director, and I will do everything I can to make sure she stays with our community. She has meant so much to us. Some of you may know we were in this place 5 years ago when a trustee was speaking out against diversity, equity, inclusion training at our public library. He made some terrible statements, and he lost his job as the trustee, as he should have. And this community supported that decision, and I think this community supports what our library is doing. They are saving lives. They are representing all of us, all of our children, all of the adults in this community that have felt like they didn't matter and they weren't included and they weren't cared for. Not just the children, but our transgender, our gay, lesbian, bisexual, all the people who have been a part of our community and haven't been seen or included for decades. And they should be seen, and they should be embraced, and they should be loved. And I want to say the collection at the library has included biblical literature, analysis of the Bible, all kinds of religions are represented in the collection at the library. Just look for it. It's time it also includes literature and materials that represent all other viewpoints. And the LGBTQ viewpoint should definitely be represented in our collection and in our activities. And those who don't want to participate, then do not participate. And I thank you all for listening so patiently and kindly and with incredible fortitude to the messages you've been hearing tonight. I thank you for your public service.
Okay, before we have the next speaker, it looks like we're at 2 hours. Is this the final group of speakers?
We have 5 lined up, I think.
Okay, 5.
6.
Okay, if there are any remaining speakers in the audience, just if you could just give us an idea. Okay, trustees, are we okay proceeding with the remaining speakers?
Can we have a motion to?
Yes.
Do we need a motion?
Okay.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Hello, my name is David Thompson. I've been in Downers Grove for 20 years. We picked this town, my wife and I, when we got married in 1990. I have absolutely no interest in bingo, not whatsoever. Never been to a bingo game, no interest at all. And personally, I have no interest in drag queens either. I just don't. But I tell you what, if I was concerned about the kids that were going to this program, I'd be there. I'd check it out. I wouldn't sit back and complain and shut it down. I was abused by a homosexual man when I was in high school. And after years of therapy, the only thing that I could recognize is that if he had been authentic, if he had been able to be authentic, if he had been able to be himself, that night might not have ever happened. I've sat here in this audience and listened to a lot of vitriol. And you know what? When I go and I want to see something and learn something, I go to a place. I'm actually glad this event didn't happen because some of the people here, I wouldn't want them there because the vitriol I've heard is horrible as I'm sitting in the audience.
Hey, my name's Lee, and he was pretty short. I thought I might have the record here for short because I don't want to talk very long, but... Hello? Okay, I speak closer to the microphone, but anyway, I have a question. I was in the library the other day, and I was looking at... and can you guys look up something for me? Yes? No? No? Oh, well. So anyway, they had the Norman Rockwell pictures there, and I think somebody's got a very good style there for that. But so there's this picture, and it says MILF on it. And I'm like, what's that? Grab your phone and look at it, and you won't like what you see. And I'm not going to say it here. So that was totally inappropriate. And it had a picture of a woman sitting in front of a, I don't know what, the vanity or whatever, and a girl sitting there. So basically, if you get to the definition of this picture with the label on it totally objectifies women. You know, you're just a piece of meat, according to that picture, and it's inappropriate for the library. Thank you.
Hi. Hopefully I can be heard. My name is Janelle Robinson. I work in Downers Grove with a diverse population, racial, ethnic, economic group of folks who come in and need help. And these are folks who often don't feel seen in this community that they live in. And so I appreciate everything that the library does to make sure that their programs make people feel seen, that they are, and I will also say that I have had an up-close experience with the DEI work that's being done, and I appreciate that it challenges the status quo and the fact that this community, as evidence that I see every day when I go into work, is not homogeneous, and that we need to have programming that speaks to everyone who lives here. So, thank you for the work you're doing.
Quickly, I'd like to thank you all for serving in this volunteer role. I'm sure the last month has been difficult, and I truly appreciate your work for the library. My wife and I have lived in Downers Grove for 15 years, and we love it here. One of the reasons is because of our wonderful library. We've watched and felt the community become more accepting of LGBTQ+ people, and we're heartened every time we see a pride flag or love is love sign in someone's yard. Part of that is knowing that the library sees and serves us. I support the library's inclusive programming. I'm not going to say much more than that because other supporters have made the same points I would. Instead, I'd like to provide some perspective on the public comments made tonight. I know you've received a lot of other feedback via other channels because I've seen the FOIA requests. The files I saw were a little old, so I appreciate the update, but the numbers track. At the point I saw it, you had received 739 responses. I read every one of them. I categorized them by sentiment and did my best to identify which responders lived in Downers Grove. Actually said they lived in Downers Grove or talked about Downers Grove in a way that seemed like they knew it. Like our country, I found that Downers Grove is divided on this type of issue. I posted the response files from the library, the spreadsheet where I categorized the feedback, and some charts at bit.ly/DGPL-responses. So anyone is free to look at them, see how I chose to categorize comments, and draw your own conclusions. Categorize the comments yourself, if you'd like. I tried to err on the side of generosity for both sides. The results show what you might expect. Counting the responses that I could tell were from residents, plus those I think might be residents, I found that 52% of respondents support the program, while 47% oppose it. The rest were neutral, just asking neutral questions. Of the 739 responses, 177 Downers Grove residents support it, and 159 Downers Grove residents oppose it. I note this not to say my view is more popular, but to show how few residents actually took the time to weigh in on this issue. More non-residents weighed in, 403, than residents, 340. But even the non-residents showed more support for the program than opposition. The updated numbers provided tonight track with this. Again, I'm not trying to convince anyone that any of these numbers represents how Downers Grove feels about the program. Quite the opposite. I note this to show that no one knows how the whole community feels, including everyone in this room. Downers Grove has a population of approximately 50,000 residents. In total, the library board has heard from 1.5% of them about this issue. The vast majority of residents doesn't feel the need to weigh in or doesn't have time because life happens. 49,261 people have yet to give an opinion. I hope they do. So while I appreciate the time and focus you've taken to read every comment you've received, please know that while I can't say the community supports programs like Drag Queen Bingo for teens, I can say that support is likely around the same figure as those who oppose it, at worst. Finally, on a personal note, from reading the comments, I had no idea that there were so many LGBTQ+ residents in Downers Grove. Y'all, let's be friends. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joseph LeMay. I'm a lifelong resident of Downers Grove. I wasn't going to come up here and speak, but upon hearing our clergy person convince us that Drag Queen Bingo was going to save people's lives, I'd ask him if his Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ or Aurora Divine. And I'd just like to ask, I like to quote Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park. The library was so concerned about whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think about whether or not they should. And if you've seen the Jurassic Park, you know things didn't go well by making dinosaurs. So if something this controversial is causing this much stir, maybe the answer is we shouldn't do it. And if you want to take your kid to see a drag queen, you go downtown in Chicago, enjoy the show like that one man did. If you want to take your kid to go to bingo, take your kid to go to bingo. I think the library, we can have a good compromise and just have regular bingo. And we wouldn't have to waste everybody's time with this silliness. So the question that we should ask is it good or bad? Yes or no? If it's going to cause this much trouble, let's just cancel it as we did. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rochelle Gorey. I've lived in Downers Grove for 17 years. Thank you for being on the library board, and Julie, thank you for your leadership. I wasn't planning on speaking. In fact, I waited in line for a long time. Nothing I have to say tonight is really that remarkable, but I feel compelled to speak because there has been so much hate and intolerance that has gone before my remarks tonight. So I want to let you know and the board know that I support you, and I want a library board that represents our entire community and supports the values of inclusivity, empowerment, empathy, and diversity. These are the tenets that define a prosperous and free community. I also believe that hate has no home here in Downers Grove. Even though tonight I have felt that hate, I have been scared. I feel sad that violence has been threatened in our community because of Drag Queen Bingo. I also believe that we need to remember the proclamation made by the mayor last June proclaiming equal rights, civil rights for the village. And it must be followed up by actions and be demonstrated by those that represent board seats and other leadership and decision-making positions that directly affect our community. Appointing a board member that aligns with this proclamation, and that's why I came here tonight. I thought, you know what, the Drag Queen Bingo, it's been canceled. Hate won in that instance, but I came here to let you know that the board matters, and I would really like to see a board that promotes diversity, empathy, inclusivity. Aligning a board that has those values is something that this community needs. And if not, then the proclamation made by our mayor for this community is just that. It's only words. A community is defined by its actions and its history by its leaders. So I implore you to think about that as you choose your next board member. Thank you, Julie, and thank you to the current board members.
Oh, my name is Don Sutton. I've been here in Downers Grove for 55 years. I'm not a public speaker, so please forgive my speech. I waited till the last to say this, but I was directly opposed to the Drag Queen Bingo. But the thing is, number one, at the beginning of tonight, we said the Pledge of Allegiance. and we said the word God in the Pledge of Allegiance. I have coins and dollars in my pocket, and they both say, "In God we trust." How many of you on the board have children? Is there a hand? How many go to church? Or how many believe in God? I haven't been to church in 20 years, but I am very religious in my way of living. I believe that God is present and that He has created earth and all of its people in His likeness. He created man and He created woman. He cannot make mistakes. He either makes one or the other. It's up to people to judge what they want to do afterwards. But they are not born something different at birth. So I've got a big history with children. I grew up in Chicago. On one street in Chicago, I had 8 friends my age, boys, 5 girls my age. I talked to my kids about I had 40 male friends in Chicago. They say, "What? How can you have that many?" Well, I had my choice of walking to 6 grammar schools or 4 high schools. So I've been around people my entire life. We had 8 in my mother's family, 8 in my father's family, nothing but cousins around. I had 4 children of my own, could have been 5. I went in the service. I had 4 godchildren the first 2 years I was in there. I now have 12 godchildren. I spent 4 years with the Cub Scouts in Downers Grove. I spent 8 years with the Boy Scouts in Downers Grove. I spent 4 years with the Civil Air Patrol with boys and girls. If anybody knows children, I do. Because I was a contractor. I worked in this building, I worked in the building next door, the police station, the fire station, all the schools, everywhere, all over this town. I know probably 300 teachers in the school district. But I don't know you as teachers. Is anyone really a teacher? If not, I don't believe you should be teaching our children. I am opposed to what you're doing with the drag queen, but if somebody wants to have it, that's okay with me. Maybe the Moose Lodge or the Elks or any private organization. But I don't believe that the public, the 50,000 people in Downers, have to pay for you to have that for a couple of kids. That is not your position. You are not there to teach our kids anything except books and music. That's my feeling. So I guess that's about all I got to say. But I don't mind you having it, but not with our money. Have it somewhere else. Thank you.
Good evening. Mary O'Dowd, resident of Darien. Thank you all for your time and service, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I am a resident of Darien, but I do borrow quite a lot from Downers Grove Public Library. I'm a member of the theatrical profession, and you guys have an amazing collection of plays and scripts, so thank you. You've saved me a ton of money. I also have some friends who are other members of the theatrical profession, designers, actors, musicians, and a couple who are drag queens. I'm not going to get into that. Today was the anniversary of my grandfather's passing. He was, I know I don't look like it, but he was Cherokee. And so thank you for the land acknowledgement. He was also a proud patriot, so thank you for reinstating the Pledge of Allegiance that meant a great deal to him. He was also a man of faith and a man of peace. He raised 8 kids. He was a farmer. He survived the Great Depression and World War II. Tough guy. He taught me this prayer. And if I get cut off because it's not allowed, okay. Eternal God, in whom mercy is endless, and the treasury of compassion inexhaustible, please look kindly upon us and increase your mercy in us, that in difficult moments we may not despair nor become despondent, but with great confidence submit ourselves to your holy will, which is love and mercy itself. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Hi, my name is Abby Goodman. I grew up here in Downers Grove, and as someone who over the last couple of years has come to terms with my sexuality, I kind of wish that I had something like that, like the bingo, to maybe make me realize it sooner or just come to terms with it. And I just want to say I'm sorry for all the threats that you guys have been facing. It's disgusting, and just thank you for all that you guys do.
All right, that concludes the the public comment portion of the meeting. Our final, 1 second.
Madam President, motion for a 5-minute recess.
Sure. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Sure. All right, we will be back at 10:07. We're going to go ahead and get started with the conclusion of the meeting. Can I ask that everyone take their seat, please?
Use the gavel.
Use the gavel again.
We'd like to start wrapping up this meeting. The final portion of our meeting is trustee comments and requests for information. So I'll open up the floor for our trustees.
Do we have a, do you want us to go? Okay, I will go first. I want to thank you, President Gagani, members of the community who are here today. Your care and commitment to the Downers Grove Public Library is noted and appreciated. Thank you to the village for allowing us to use these facilities, and thank you to the Downers Grove Police Department for your presence here tonight. As a trustee, one of our duties is to be prepared to promote the purpose, values, and services of the library. The Downers Grove Library is a place for everyone to discover, grow, play, and learn. To honor that purpose, to truly commit to it, we must broaden our view and ensure all members of our community are seen, heard, and valued. Many of you attended our listening sessions. We heard from community organizations and community members on where we were doing well and where we needed to improve. We heard you. Our community asked us to do better. We needed to do better. It wasn't enough to just say the Downers Grove Public Library is a place for everyone. We needed to live by that purpose. Our strategic focus has 4 E's. And while we were meeting 3 of those in excelling, engaging, and empowering our community, we also needed to actively evolve with our changing community. I am proud that in April of 2022, the board unanimously approved the Equity Strategic Plan. This plan is guiding us as the library continues to move forward. As a goal in the plan that as a public library, DGPL advocates for and welcomes all people, including those who are marginalized, historically and intentionally, and those whose voices have traditionally been centered. This is done by activating library programming that builds community awareness and a capacity at anti-prejudice, anti-racism, and anti-hate. I am proud to support these goals. And as a trustee, I support the director and the staff in working towards those goals. Thank you.
I'll go next. Is there anybody else?
Yes.
I share your commitment to our library's mission, diversity, inclusivity. The objective of creating a place that where everyone feels welcome is a noble and worthwhile goal. I've taken that to heart, And as a member of the Board of Trustees, I take that responsibility very seriously. I sincerely want everyone, including the LGBTQ+ community, to not only feel welcome, but comfortable, engaged, and excited when they come to the library. I am the father to 2 young boys. My wife is an elementary school teacher. She's taught at the elementary school level and the high school level. The library is an important part of our family. It's an important part of our community. It's a near weekly routine for us, for our family, and I care about what happens here. I also care about what happens in the Downers Grove community at large. I'm going to share my position on the drag queen bingo event. But first I want to say that my position absolutely does not represent any attempt to diminish or disrespect the LGBTQ community. With that said, I was unequivocally opposed to the drag queen bingo event, and I want to explain why. And my reasons may surprise you. It's because of the particular choice, not because of the objective. It's also because of the missed opportunity that we had. The library director stated when this event was planned that this was going to be a library and age-appropriate drag performance. I think it's worth considering when you have to modify something to be age-appropriate, that may be a signal that maybe you should not be doing it in the first place, at least not at a public library. Creating an age-appropriate version of something that has an objectively adult and often, maybe not always, but often sexual context doesn't place us on moral high ground. Furthermore, the featured performer for this event, Aurora Devine, definitely has a public persona that is absolutely adult and absolutely sexual. Many of our patrons have correctly observed that she boasts about a raucous and raunchy time at her shows. I believe that it displayed a lack of judgment to engage with somebody who publicly portrays that image, to ignore that, and to expose the library to that element. We have opened ourselves up to justified criticism, and we should not be surprised about the response that we received. Finally, and this is the most important point, I cannot understand why this event represents the best that we could have done. And this is the missed opportunity that I spoke of. If the intent was to celebrate the LGBTQ community and to coincide with National Coming Out Day, was this really the best that we could come up with? Did we exhaust the undoubtedly long list of LGBTQ individuals who have led inspiring lives, overcome obstacles, and made valuable contributions to our country and our society? Were all these people booked? Did we bother to try? Instead, we brought in an adult performer, that's not up for debate, to perform an adult show that was modified for teens, that's not up for debate, and to play bingo. Is this what we aspire to for our LGBTQ teens? Is this the inspiring example we want to give on this day of significance? Or did we sell them short? So opposed doesn't really even begin to describe my feelings on this matter. I'm dismayed with the poor judgment, the lack of creativity, the absence of foresight in scheduling this event. I'm disappointed in us for exposing the library to this controversy. I'm frustrated at the costs and the disruptive effect this has had and will continue to have on the library's operations. And I'm mostly disheartened that the library has created division in our community. To be clear and to reiterate, we had a real opportunity to create understanding if we had only chosen a different path. To those in the community who were supportive of this event, thank you for speaking up tonight. I hear you, and to the extent that your intent is to support inclusivity, I want you to know that I share your commitment to that principle. I simply feel we could have made a much better decision on how to accomplish that objective. To those of you who are opposed, many of you have gone home now, I want to say that I completely reject the notion that your opposition represents hate or intolerance. I don't believe anyone who has voiced opposition, maybe not anyone, but most people who have voiced opposition don't want LGBTQ patrons to feel welcome at our library. I don't believe that they are not supportive of an event that coincides with National Coming Out Day. I also want you to know I reject the premise that if you don't like it, you don't have to come. You are taxpayers and stakeholders in our mission, and the wider group of library patrons alike have every right to take an interest in the sum total of what happens at the library. What you are is concerned parents and concerned citizens. You're on firm ground in voicing opposition when you see something that is counter to what you feel is appropriate, an appropriate way to conduct that mission. And so I reject the notion again that your opposition is hate speech, stochastic terrorism, or any of the other inflammatory accusations that have been directed your way. Threats, intimidation, workplace harassment are unacceptable, and that form of hate has no place in our discourse. In fact, your feelings echo the mother of an LGBTQ child who spoke out in opposition at Village Council. It also aligns with a theater professional who acknowledged drag as a legitimate performance genre, but also as an objectively adult one. And they reflect the former community leader who is part of the LGBT community, who I intentionally scheduled breakfast with and wanted to listen to sincerely, who winced at the thought that this was the way the library sought to represent this community to young people, his community to young people. He, in fact, would have made a better choice to come in and do an event at the library. I'm going to shift my focus to the future. As a board member, I have significant concerns about the leadership and the judgment applied here. I have many questions about the way this was handled from a process and a protocol standpoint, especially regarding how the board was engaged by staff and the role of the board when there is a situation that is decidedly out of normal operations. Website postings, frequently asked questions, press releases, and conferences, responses to emails were all done without sufficient board engagement and collaboration, in my opinion. And lastly, I have questions about how our mission, which I support and take very seriously, is being pursued. Exclusive programming as a way to drive inclusivity is something that we should debate. What is not up for debate, however, is that when and if exclusive programming does occur, especially when it's done for inclusivity, it should be in a manner that brings us all together and creates and builds understanding. Against that measure, we have fallen far short, and we must do better. Nothing's going to be decided here tonight. We were here to listen as the first order of business, and following tonight, the real work will begin to have a complete accounting of this situation, and most importantly, to make the appropriate changes going forward. My primary goal in that will be the integrity and transparency of those deliberations, and I look forward to working with my fellow trustees and to keeping the patrons and taxpayers fully apprised of the process that will follow this situation and tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Sure. I want to start by, well, first of all, thanking all of you who are left. It was tremendous to see so many people come out and learn about the library and engage with us in whatever form that took. I appreciate, again, to echo Barnelli, the village for the use of this hall, the police for their support of this event, and for the library board, the library director and staff for their continued work. I wanted to start by saying that I'm speaking only for myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of any of my fellow trustees or the library or all white women of a certain age or any other group of people. For the next few minutes, I'm simply going to share my perspective. So I wanted to reflect on discomfort, which might seem like an odd choice of words given the intensity of the situation we've been experiencing, but let me explain. When we first went through DEI training as a board several months ago, the facilitator said that talking about issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion could bring on feelings of discomfort. At the time, I just kind of said and nodded and said, sure, yeah, some of these topics are going to be uncomfortable, yep. But I didn't really get a chance to really experience that discomfort until this month. I first started feeling that discomfort when the drag queen bingo event began getting its own attention, more attention than any of the library's 800 plus annual programs have gotten in my experience. And this attention was uncomfortable for me personally because this little prepared notes notwithstanding, I don't really like being the center of attention, even if the attention is good attention. So it's not something I'm comfortable with. And it's also understandably uncomfortable when your community is the focus of controversy. And I worried that anyone reading or hearing about what was happening in Downers Grove wasn't getting the full picture, and that they would jump to conclusions about the community that I call home and the library that I love. Which leads me to the second way in which I experienced discomfort, as the subject, either directly or indirectly, of name-calling, accusations, and bullying. Okay, so you can call me sheltered or naive, but I don't spend a lot of time on social media, and I'm just not used to it. Not since middle school, at least. As you know, the board and staff of the library received a tremendous amount of feedback, both positive and negative, about Drag Queen Bingo. I recognized only a handful of individuals who sent us the messages, which means that the people who wrote them know very little about me, which is fine. But the assumptions people were making about me were astounding. Words were being put in my mouth. People knew exactly what my moral code was. They knew I had an ideology and an agenda. Apparently, I have some kind of mind control ability, which it's really giving me entirely too much credit because sometimes I barely remember what I had for breakfast. So I was uncomfortable. And if I'm honest, I was a little bit scared. But then I realized that I'm in an incredibly privileged position. I chose to serve as a library trustee. It's part of who I am as a citizen of Downers Grove, but it's not something that's obvious when I walk down the street. So this experience of being judged by folks who don't know much about me, based solely on one attribute of my identity, being made to feel unworthy or unwelcome or less than, it actually awakened and strengthened my empathy for members of the LGBTQ community, people of color, individuals with disabilities, and other marginalized people who live this experience every day. I'm privileged to feel safe in my workplace, my home, my local businesses, my library, and to, for the most part, not be judged by some aspect of my identity. But that's not the experience of all Downers Grove residents. There are people, our neighbors, whose identities and their very existence determines the amount of hate and prejudice they experience on a daily basis. Now, I don't think Downers Grove is a hateful place. On the contrary, I think we live in an exceptional town where people genuinely care about their neighbors. But hate does exist here. And it certainly exists in the world, and especially on the internet. Yeah, I can handle being called a few rude names on social media, but I don't have to be okay with it. And I definitely don't want it to be the norm for myself, my family, for patrons of the library, or for any resident of Downers Grove. So let me be clear, I'm not comparing my few moments of discomfort to the lived experiences of the LGBTQ community. What I'm saying is that it made me remember the very reason why we're doing this work in the first place. And that leads me to the third source of discomfort. The discomfort of not knowing whether we were doing more harm than good for the individuals and community whom we were trying to support with this particular program. I can imagine that seeing our village so starkly and publicly divided was traumatic for some individuals. And as we heard tonight and through the emails and other messages received, we did hear support from those communities, but I look forward to hearing and understanding more about how we can serve in the future. So for that awareness, that increased empathy, and for those opportunities to understand, I'm very grateful for my discomfort. I'm also grateful for what I think is a potential silver lining, if we choose to see it that way, an increased awareness of and visibility for the Downers Grove Public Library. The director and staff are doing great things here. The board operates openly, and we've been meeting in the library meeting room fourth Wednesday of every month for years and years and years, and we don't usually get this many visitors. But if you've been at some of those past meetings, you'd have heard about the hold lockers and the memory kits, the Beatles exhibit, the SAT prep sessions, the genealogy workshops, the cameras and sewing machines that you can check out, and all the other really creative programs and services that we're really proud of. And among those offerings, I hope everyone can see their interest reflected. And again, I'll not speak for my fellow board members here, but I'd be interested in that constructive feedback of what those offerings are. Finally, I wanted to use my platform as a board member to pitch a couple of programming ideas or thoughts for us to think about for the future, as Bill did. I think it'd be really great for us to run programs that help members of our community understand how to effectively and respectfully lobby for a particular position or to take a particular action.
I can't speak for the mayor, the village council, the school board, or my colleagues, but I can say, at least for myself, verbal attacks won't convince me. Misinformation won't convince me. Conversation might. Yeah, sitting down and discussing issues takes longer and probably isn't as satisfying as getting likes or follows or retweets, but it might lead to more civil, civic discourse. I'd also love to see the library offer more programs about information literacy and social media literacy for teenagers and adults. Books are great, but we no longer get all of our information from the printed page. There's a vast amount of information on the internet of varying degrees of quality and accuracy and reputability, and we'd all benefit from learning how to make sense of all that noise. So now all of you in the room, whoever's left, knows enough to call me at least one name that's accurate. I'm a frickin' idealist, and I think we can do better.
As president of the Downers Grove Public Library Board of Trustees, I feel a responsibility to speak out in support of our library staff and their decision to offer a drag queen bingo event for teens as part of the library's vibrant, diverse programming for all ages. To begin, I want to stress that the board does not have oversight over specific library programming decisions, nor should we. As a board of trustees, our role is to hire the library director and then to provide her with the support she needs to succeed. Library Director Julie Milovic is doing an exceptional job for our library and our community. She has hired a talented staff that is bringing innovative, patron-focused ideas to this vital public institution. It's worth reminding everyone involved that the root word of trustee is trust. I absolutely trust Director Milovic to provide thoughtful, age-appropriate programming for all patrons and to assure the safety and security of everyone who enters our library. More personally, I want to share some of my own experiences as a young person growing up in a community where I felt that I didn't really belong. For me, the public library was a place of refuge, a place where I felt safe and valued as a member of a larger community, a community of books and ideas. It's hard to describe the profound feeling of sitting in a library, reading a book, and realizing that you are no longer alone. Especially for young people, a public library can open the door to another world of people who look like you do, think like you do, and feel like you do. Now, as a grown woman with children of my own, I'm so proud to live in a place that understands the fundamental value of a public library and its power to build community and transform lives in deeply positive ways. I'm especially proud to serve on the Board of Trustees of a library that works so hard to fulfill its responsibility to every person in our community at every age. Every person who lives in Downers Grove should be able to walk into our library and feel recognized, accepted, valued, and served. We have no right to deny full membership in our community to anyone because a few people don't like the way they look or the way they dress. The Downers Grove Public Library's Drag Queen Bingo Night featuring Aurora Devine was intended to provide a few hours of age-appropriate fun for teens in our community. As part of this event, the library was making the statement to all of our young people that our community accepts and celebrates them for who they are now and who they will be as adults. I'm disappointed that people from Downers Grove and other communities have chosen to express hatred and fear toward our young people and the library that serves them. In closing, I want to stress to our young people and to youth in our surrounding communities that this event was canceled solely for your protection. We feared that young participants would be harassed or even harmed by these hate-filled antagonists. We couldn't let that happen. Our public library is here for you. Within this building, you will find books written by people who see the world the way that you do and by others who do not. We encourage you to keep on coming to our library to read, to discover, and to explore new worlds in a place that is free, safe, and welcoming to all.
I think I told my colleagues I wasn't going to say anything, but I will now briefly. I'm going to take the clue from our president who said, please don't repeat what has already been said. And so I just want to, except for one thing, I will say thank you to all of you and all of the people who were here for exercising your right to free speech and expressing your opinions. I sometimes regret or miss the civility that I think we've lost a bit of sometimes. However, I do respect the right to differ, and I will always listen, and I have listened tonight. and I've learned a few things tonight. I guess I want to go back to the fact that I've lived in Downers Grove all my life so far, which is a lot of years. I was a kid in the junior room of the public library. I was not a jock. I was a nerd. And I can specifically remember the librarians having programs for me. They also had programs for the jocks, and I can remember a program where they brought us together and had us share experiences with each other. I think the library through the years has always presented different points of view for different people, because the library should reflect all of the community. As such, we at the library did engage a consultant to help us improve our DEI appearances in the community. We had both library staff members and members of our community who felt a little less than welcome at their place of work and at their place of research at their library. We could do better. We believed we could do better, and I believe our DEI strategic plan shows that we can do better, and I fully support that plan. The library needs to look like the community. The library needs to reflect the different people in the community, and also, of course, display the intellectual freedom and the freedom of speech. But we also have to know that when there is a segment of the community that feels not only unwelcome, but hurt and needs to see somebody like them and hear from somebody like them, there are a few places where that can happen, and the library can and should be one of those places. I heard this phrase, and I'll just end with it. No one should be ashamed for who they are, and the library needs to support that. I support the library director, I support our library staff, and I support my colleagues on the library board. We will work together, we will listen to each other, and we will keep this library the fine organization that it has been, and that it is, and that it will be and can be. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for sticking around as long as you did. With that, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:33 p.m.
Need a motion. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, seconded.
Can you take a vote?
Everybody, all in favor?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.